Hi everyone, Jim here. Welcome to my channel. Well, I thought I'd take a break from Private Eye July stuff and share with you a whole bunch of books that I've acquired over about maybe 4 visits to thrift store visits. I think there's probably something here for everybody. So, I mean, if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm sure you'll find something that might interest you. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get right into it and start going through the books that I've acquired. So this is a pretty massive book haul. So, fasten your seatbelts. I've got number 4 and number 6 of the Stephanie Plum series by Janet Ivanovich. Now I have number 1 and 2 on my shelf, and they're very enjoyable books, very funny, very well written, and there's a lot of them out there. There's 4 to score, and there's Hot 6. Yeah, I had number 3 there. I was going to pick number 3 up, but the book itself was in very bad shape, so I just left that at the store. But I mean, I see them everywhere, so I mean, I'll be able to pick them up at a future date. But those are fun books. I've got a Lawrence Block book, Tanner's Virgin. I read Tanner's Ice a few months ago, and I didn't really get along with it too much, and that's probably the only Lawrence Block book that I've never really enjoyed. But I'm hoping that maybe the other Tanner books, this one specifically, might be a little better. So that's good. And I've got the first book in the Sharon McCone series. Sharon McCone is a Private Eye, created by Marcia Mueller, and this is the first of the series. And I have a Sam Durrell book by Edward S. Aarons, Assignment Palermo. And you see these everywhere, and they're actually kind of fun. There was 1 or 2 that were a little slow in the action, and Sam Durrell didn't really have a lot of initiative in them, but for the most part, they're very good novels, and they have awesome covers. So that was a nice find. We have some early paperbacks, some short paperbacks. I was happy to find this one. I always pick up these Alfred Hitchcock Presents stories whenever I find them, and this is a very early one, and this is Alfred Hitchcock Presents Stories My Mother Never Told Me. And it's got kind of a cool cover, and it's got stories in there from Richard Matheson, Shirley Jackson, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and just a thin little paperback, and they're nice to pick up whenever you can find those. We have a Dell Mapback called Manhattan Nights by Faith Baldwin, and this one's considered a romance, and there's the map back on it, and these are always, I always pick these up whenever I find them too, because they're very collectible, and I have a lot of these Dell Mapbacks now, and they're very cool books. And that artist, I don't recall who the artist was, but you'd see him a lot on these Dell paperbacks. And we have an old paperback called Circle of Desire, and this is an Avon book, and that's by Robert Paul Smith, and that's just got a very cool cover on it. And there's the back cover. And here we have a book of great American short stories. And I love these little paperbacks full of short stories. These are obviously not, mysteries or anything specifically. These are just regular short stories with authors Washington Irving, Edgar Allan Poe, Mark Twain, Ambrose Bierce, Bret Harte, Henry James, Stephen Crane, John Steinbeck, like that kind of stuff. And I always pick these up whenever I find them. I have a few of these on my shelf, and they're a lot of fun, and I love reading these short stories. That's just a nice paperback in really good shape. The pages are nice, and that's a Dell, and it's called a Dell Laurel Edition, but in really good shape. And here we have another one that's considered a romance, I think, A Night with Mr. Primrose, and this is another Avon paperback by Whitfield Cook, and that's just a beautiful cover. And I think I've heard that title before. It might be a famous story, but it's I love picking these old vintage paperbacks up, and that one's in pretty good shape. And here's another one. This is a Signet book, a Signet novel called Saturday Night by James T. Farrell. and that awesome cover. And I always pick these up whenever I can. I got these for $1 at the thrift store. And this next one, I had to cover it up because the cover kind of showed nudity. This is the Operation Hang 10 novels, Hang Dead Hawaiian Style. And this is by Patrick Morgan. And this was a series of books about a surfer secret agent. So this one, you know, it's not in the greatest shape, but I don't have any of those, so I decided to pick that one up, and that's Hang Dead Hawaiian Style. So I might read that one very soon. A good men's adventure paperback. This one I kind of got for the cover. It's very, very cool cover, very well done. The Onion Eaters by J.P. Donlavey. And there's the man on the back. I really don't know too much about it, but it's got some good blurbs on the back from Baltimore Sun, Women's Wear Daily, Chicago News. So yeah, but it's just a lovely cover, lovely painted cover, and so I snagged that one. It's in really good shape. And we have here kind of I thought this was a ghost story when I initially picked it up. It's called Grave Doubt by Ivan Baker, and it's about a crashed World War II bomber, but this is like 20 years later after the Second World War, well, 3 decades later. So yeah, it just looked very, very interesting, and it's just a nice paperback, neat cover, and it looks like it might be pretty good, actually. And then we have Louis L'Amour, The Hills of Homicide. I actually have this book in a different edition, but I didn't have that cover, so I picked this one up specifically for the cover. So that gives me 2 copies of these. But you know, it's Louis L'Amour, and I always like to pick them up whenever I can. And this one's in really good condition. I think the other one I have with the different cover I bought brand new, but I read it a lot, so it might not be in the greatest shape, but this one's in pretty good shape, and that's a very cool cover. Now we have this book called The Voices of Masada by David Kossoff, and it tells a story about Masada. And I had the actual book Masada years ago, the paperback, and I don't have it anymore. So when I saw this one, I had to have it, and I picked it up. And yeah, it takes place in the year AD 73, so it's a pretty famous incident from back in the day. And this one is based on the video game The Rise of Sin Tzu, and this is a Batman video game, obviously, and this is a novelization of the video game, and this is by Devin Grayson and Flint Dill, based on the game script by Flint Dill. And I don't have this video game, but I have the Batman animated video game that I played years ago, and I enjoyed that. I have a lot of the Batman video games. The Arkham games are very cool, and maybe one of these days I'll pick up the video game for this one. But very cool cover. And this one is called, this is a Beacon Signal book by Burton St. John called Twin Taboos. And this deals with a searing story of 2 who dared to know miscegenation and worse. And that's just a very cool cover. Like, I love that cover. And yeah, so I thought I'd pick that one up. And here, this one is, you know, the Partridge Family font aside, this is a pretty heavy story. This is the Black Death, about the bubonic plague back in the 14th century. And it's a little paperback, and I've already started reading this, and it's actually really good. It's got some drawings in it, and yeah, so I picked that up. I wanted to have that one. Got a gothic romance called The Witch of Blackbird Pond by Elizabeth George Spear, and this is a Dell paperback, and I love these gothic covers, these gothic books, just very cool. Prisoner in a House of Strangers. I mean, the story is pretty much run, you know, they're pretty formulaic, and then the covers are formulaic, but I mean, that's just a beautiful cover, and I had to have that one. And here we have Oddly enough, I never bought this over the years. I have all kinds of Conan books and paperbacks. I have the Conan the Barbarian adaptation, but I never did pick this one up because I didn't like the movie. The movie kind of sucked, but you know, the book might be better. It's by Robert Jordan, and he did a pretty fair job on the Conan adaptations, or the Conan novels that he wrote for Tor Books. So maybe this is worth checking out. And it's in really good condition, so I wasn't passing that one up. Here we have Michael Moorcock, The Oak and the Ram. This is the 5th book of Quorum. And I love these editions, and I think that's covered by Robert Gould. He did a lot of the covers for these specific Berkeley Fantasy paperback covers. Now we have Tarnsman of Gore, and this is the Chronicles of Counter-Earth Volume 1 with a Boris cover. And I don't have a lot of these, but I do have some of these Gore novels, and again, in good condition, and I wasn't leaving that back at the store. And we have a Blade novel along the same lines as Gore. This is called The Wizard of Rentoro by Jeffrey Lord. You know, not the greatest cover, but they're the stories are kitschy in their own way. Enjoyable, men's adventure kind of stuff. And here we have The Sword of the Morning Star by Richard Mead, and that's a Jeffrey Jones cover. Tiny little paperback, and this is a Signet paperback. And I love this kind of fantasy and these covers. You know, that was a nice find. This one here is a Frank Frazetta cover. This is called The God Makers by Dan Britton, and this is from Pinnacle Books. And I don't know much about the story, but yeah, I wasn't leaving that paperback. It was a good find. I mean, you don't find a lot of these kind of paperbacks out at the thrift stores, so I was surprised to find it, and I snagged it, of course. This one I was happy to find. I read Thunder the Barbarian by John Bloodstone a while back, a reread. I got it when I was like early 20s, a long time ago, and there was never a sequel to it, although it was kind of promised. But here's another book by John Bloodstone called God-Man. Not the greatest cover, but I was happy to find it, and it looks like all the blurbs on the back are by John Bloodstone himself. John Bloodstone was a pseudonym for Stuart J. Byrne, and he's got, you know, the first blurb is by Stuart J. Byrne. But I'm kind of looking forward to checking that out and seeing what that's all about, because I love Thunder the Barbarian, such a good book. And here I've got a book by Edmund Hamilton called City at World's End. Little tiny paperback from Crest Books, a little vintage paperback. You know, and that was a nice find, and I'm a fan of Edmund Hamilton. I like his writing. And the next ones we have, I found a few Star Trek books. I intended to do some reading for Book Track. I still have lots of time to do that, so I'll probably get into one or two of these. But we have this one by Della Van Hise, Killing Time. And we have this one by Judith and Garfield Reeves Stevens called Prime Directive. Now, the only Star Trek novels I'm interested in reading are from the original series. I don't really read, or haven't read any of the Next Generation ones or any of the other ones. It's strictly the original series. If I'm going to read about Star Trek, it's going to be the original characters. So here we have Assignment Eternity by Greg Cox. And there's, you see, Gary Seven from the original series. And we do have The Return. It says by William Shatner, but I think it was probably written by Judith and Garfield Reeves Stevens. And this is after, you know, Kirk's death in the movies. This book came out, and he basically, you know, comes back to life. So I don't know much more about it other than that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that. And then we have a couple of larger books. I have a trade paperback, Swords and Dark Magic, The New Sword and Sorcery, edited by Jonathan Strawn and Lou Anders. And this has an Elric story in it. It's got a story by Joe Abercrombie, and one by C.J. Cherry, and one by Glenn Cook, which is a new Black Company short story. Now I know Grammaticus, quite a few episodes ago, he recommended the Black Company books, so I'm kind of looking forward to reading that story. So yeah, that was a nice find. You don't see them too much. And then I have a Sherlock Holmes anthology, a little hardcover, Murder, My Dear Watson, and this is edited by Martin H. Greenberg, with all kinds of Sherlock Holmes stories in there. One by Lauren D. Estelman, one by Sharon McCrum. So yeah, and there's some essays in here too. There's 4 essays in here about Sherlock Holmes. So that was a nice find. And I'm looking forward to getting into that. So that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to do a quick book haul, give you a bit of a break from Private Eye July, and share those with you as kind of a treat. So until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Take care and keep reading.